Hey everybody! Welcome back to the kitchen. Your Cheff'n with Chef Angel. Today we're going to pay homage to my mother and my grandmother on some of their timeless classic recipes. Like, do you remember the tomato soup and the grilled cheese? We're going to kind of elevate that and upgrade it. So when you come back, we're going to make a great meal and also have some great memories. See you in a minute.
Soon I'll be done with the troubles of this world. I'm going home to live with God.
All right, welcome back, you guys. I told you earlier that we were going to elevate some timeless classics made by my mother and grandmother. I'm sure your grandmother or mother or aunt or whomever probably made these meals for you when you were a child as well. That famous tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwich. Today, we're going to take that and kind of twist it. We're going to put our own spin on it, my signature spin on it, and we're going to make a roasted red pepper soup with Brie and Havarti cheese, and then we're going to use pumpernickel bread instead of that old white bread and American cheese. We're going to use pumpernickel bread and some Gruyere cheese for our grilled cheese sandwich, and we're also going to put in a little bit of fresh sage and rosemary to just elevate that entire dish. Is just going to be elevated completely with both of these matched together. So as you can see, I've already started cutting up, and this is a rough chop. Obviously, you can see the sizes are all kinds of sizes. I've already begun to chop up our red pepper. It doesn't have to be pretty. You just, a rough chop is fine. We're going to make sure, oh, look at that, a seed. That out of there. We already have our carrots and our white onion and our celery. And for the measurements of that, it's a half a cup of celery, a half a cup of carrots, and one whole white onion. And we're going to put all of this in the pot at the same time. We're going to put this entire bowl in, olive oil, and a couple of different seasonings just to start it off. And we're going to cook this on high. We want to cook it on high because we want all of these wonderful vegetables to become translucent. We want them to have that good roasted flavor. And another way that you can do this, if you want to save time and kind of do the work, let the oven do the work while you do something else, you can put all of these on a baking sheet and put them inside of the oven and roast them for maybe about 25 minutes, and you'll still get the same effect. But because you guys know I love my new waves and I love to cook in front of you instead of moving all around the kitchen, we're going to just do everything by cooktop. So as I am preparing to get the rest of these ingredients together, we'll be right back. Okay, so now we have everything inside of our pot. Everything is roughly chopped up. We're going to get ready to set our new wave induction cooktop. So because we want this to cook down and we really want a good sear on our vegetables, we're going to start this at medium high. Medium high being 375 if you have an induction cooktop. 375 is pretty much the base of where you'll cook almost anything unless you're really trying to do something specific. So now we're starting it and it's on. I'm going to put a top over this because we want it to want it to sweat fairly fast. While we are waiting on this, there are a couple of things that I want you guys to make sure that you have. So you already know that we put red peppers in, carrots, white onion, celery. That's already in the pot, but there are some other things that we're going to use as well as this begins to cook down. So of course sea salt, herb de provenance, and you're only going to use maybe a half a teaspoon of this because we don't want to overpower it. Regular sea salt, something that just I just kind of mixed up together. I'm sorry, a regular seasoning salt that I just kind of mixed up together. And then we have some red wine vinegar. And as you can see, I always put whatever I am using, if it's something that is a certain brand, Cardenas. This is such a powerful red wine vinegar. You really don't want to use a lot of this. And you can find this company on 9th Street in Philadelphia if you ever go to the Italian market. Wonderful prices, but they last a long time and the taste is phenomenal. We're also going to be putting in some roughly chopped garlic. And the reason why we have everything so roughly chopped and we're not being precise as to how we make it look is because all of this is going to be pureed for our soup. So you won't even be able to see any of our imperfections when it comes to the cutting. So we're going to add these ingredients as these begin to sweat down. So when you come back, there are some other ingredients too that we're going to be using, but for right now, we're just going to kind of wait and let this sweat out, and then we'll add these ingredients. So I'll see you in a minute, and we'll get prepared to make our grilled cheese sandwiches. Okay, so welcome back again, and we have some things already in the works, but I wanted to kind of talk to you about this elevated grilled cheese sandwich that we're going to make. So we're going to be using pumpernickel bread. We're also going to be using Gruyere cheese and a mild version of Gruyere cheese because we don't want anything that's too pungent to kind of fight with the rosemary and sage that we're going to also be using in this. But the main attraction is not the cheese. The actual main attraction is the fact that we're going to be using caramelized onions inside our grilled cheese. And we have 4 different types that we're going to use. So we're going to have a whole white, yellow, a sweet, and a Spanish. So all of these have different textures, and the layers of flavor that comes with all of these different onions are going to just set everything in motion for this grilled cheese. So we're gonna cut these up, and probably we can do this right now while we're waiting on this to sweat down. All right, so we are at the end of the line when it comes to cutting up all these onions, and they're roughly chopped as well because they're going to be caramelized and they're going to be placed inside the middle. So once again, your kniving skills are not really that important. So we're going to just move these to the side for now, and we're going to go back to our base for our soup. And it smells so great in here. You guys know what happens every time I pull this up, so I got to protect my face. Woo. So right now, you should start to see some browning on your red peppers. That's okay. It's not burning. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So now we're going to add all of the garlic. Remember I said it's roughly chopped, and I used about 5 cloves, and For me, I love garlic. You can use less if you want, or you can use more if you want. But I used about 5, and I just kind of roughly chopped it up. And I'm going to let this now kind of join the party, give off its flavoring as well. And we're going to move this around just a little bit. And as you can hear, it's, it's sizzling up. That olive oil is in there. So we're going to give this maybe another 5 minutes. Right now it's already been cooking down for about 10, maybe 12 minutes. We'll probably give it another 5 just so that we can let those garlic pieces kind of soften up a little bit. And then we're going to add our red wine vinegar and our seasonings to this. So as you can see, I still have not put any seasoning in yet. We're going to let everything kind of be pulled out, and then we're going to add to the flavor. Okay, so we are back, and like I said, we are going to start adding our seasoning to what we're preparing for our soup. First thing we're going to add in is our herb de Provence, and you're going to put the entire half a teaspoon in there, a pinch of coarse sea salt, we're putting in some seasoning salt. 2 pinches is just fine. You don't want it to be overly salty. And our red wine vinegar. Now that we have that in, I'm going to stir this up a little bit. We're going to add 4 cups of chicken stock. If you want this to be a fully vegetarian meal, add vegetable stock. And you also do not have to use any dairy at all if you don't want to. We're using dairy, but you don't have to if you want it to be a fully vegetarian meal. Some people like to use vegetarian cheeses and things like that, and you're welcome to do those things as well. This is very much a versatile recipe where you can switch it over from it being a regular, just, wonderful recipe, or if you're strictly vegan, you don't want to add any type of dairy products or any meat products, this is also something that can be reversed and transferred into just a straight vegan meal. So 4 cups of chicken stock. We're going to pour this right on in. We're not turning the heat down. Normally, I would tell you guys when you add something, this important to turn the heat down. We're not going to do that today. We're actually going to let this continue to boil just the way we need it to. We're actually halfway done with the soup already. It's a very fast meal, something that you can easily cook on any day of the week. But it's definitely one of those meals that you want to cook on a day when you're lazy around the house. It's bitter cold outside, or raining or snowing, and you really don't want to go anywhere. You just kind of want to cuddle up with a book or a movie or something. This is one of those type of meals. So as we're waiting on this, I'm going to put the top back on it. We're going to begin to prepare our onions for our grilled cheese. So we already have our pan here. Simple olive oil and sea salt. That's all we're going to do. We're going to let the onions do what they do best, and they let off a lot of wonderful flavors. So we're going to get this started. We're going to start on medium, not medium high, medium, 275, because we don't want this to cook too fast to where the onions begin to burn. So as we're waiting for this, be liberal with your olive oil. Definitely be liberal with your olive oil. We're going to put this inside the pan. And as you can see, I've already kind of mixed them up, and they're not chopped in any specific way. So now that those are cooking down, you're going to give them just a little bit of a toss because you want the olive oil to get all over them. Two pinches of coarse sea salt. And we're just going to kind of let that hang out and let it do its thing. I'm going to go wash my hands so we can get started on preparing our bread for our grilled cheese sandwiches. So we'll be right back. All right, you guys, we are back. As you can see, we are really moving over here. We have our onions are getting very brown. They're not burning, but they're getting brown. So now that we are almost to the point where they're fully translucent and browning, we're going to add another layer of flavor to them. So I've already taken some herbs, some sage, fresh sage and fresh rosemary, and I've already chopped them, roughly chopped them. And we're going to add that into our onions. Now, if you thought it smelled good in your house a minute ago, you are going to pass out from the smell that is about to take over your kitchen. And then to this, we're also going to add some white wine. You guys know me. I love to cook with alcohol of some sort. So this week is white wine. And you're going to pour that right on in there. And the flavor is going to heighten so much just from the fresh herbs and the white wine. So now we're going to let this reduce all the way down. All the way. Until these are completely caramelized and there's no more liquid in the pot. So while we're waiting on that, let's check on our soup. See how it's doing. Huh. Wow. Wow. This is absolutely beautiful. Everything in the pot is soft. The smell is amazing. We are actually about ready to move on to the next step of our soup, which is blending it all and making it smooth. And there's actually two ways that you can do this. If you have an emulsifier, you can use it right over the area that you're in, into the pot. Or if you just have a blender, and today we're just going to use a blender, what you're going to do is you're going to put all of your ingredients inside the blender, and then we're going to blend it just to make it smooth. So however you decide to do it, either way is going to get you where you need it to be. So when we return back, I'm going to show you what this looks like completely blended. And then we're going to move forward with adding our cheeses and our heavy cream so that we can actually finish this portion of the recipe. All right, so we are back. As you can see, I've already blended up my portion of the soup. At this point, this is where you should be at. We're going to get started with now building the final product of this soup. So we're going to pour this back into the pot. So now that we have everything blended together, we're going to get started on adding the cheeses and the cream to our soup. And I've already kind of turned everything off because, of course, we had to remove these items off of our cooktops. So now we're going to turn them back on. We're going to put them at a very low heat because we don't want, what the inevitable will happen is you turn it on high and everything starts bubbling up and blowing up everywhere. We don't want that. So we're going to put this on a low 175. Now that we turned it on, so for our new wave, 175 is medium low. So if you have a new wave, that's what you're going to put it on. Press start, and you're gonna, you know, every single time it starts up immediately. So we are going to now add our Brie cheese and our Havarti cheese, and we're going to also add, I think this is about a half a cup of heavy cream. You do not have to use this at all, and you don't have to use this much. I like creamier soups. That's just my preference. So if you want to kind of scale down, that's totally up to you. All right, so I'm using a brie that has no flavoring. If you are a person who likes brie, like I do, they have all kinds of different flavors. They have some with herbs. They have some with peppercorns. They have spicy, you know, where they add red pepper flakes and things like that. This is just a plain brie cheese, no rind. Some people use the rind. Some people actually like the rind, and I don't mind it. But in this type of soup, because we've already blended everything together, we don't want rind pieces inside of the soup. So we're adding the entire amount, and this is a 5-ounce brie, and as you see already how creamy this is, right? And you're hoping that that's exactly what your soup is going to be, just as creamy, right? I left it at room temperature just so that I can get this kind of effect, so it melts down a little bit faster. But, you know, you can use it like as soon as it comes out the refrigerator. It's totally up to you. We're also going to put in half a cup of Havarti cheese. And Havarti cheese is very, you know, you can get it. It's very nutty. It's very rustic. And you can get this also in different ages. And the older it is, of course, the harder it is. This is a very mild Havarti, and it's only been aged for about 30 days. So we're going to put all these pieces in, and I put them in fairly big chunks only because it melts down so great. And once we get all of these pieces in and our heavy cream in, then we can actually turn it up, because we're going to cover it a little bit, and then we're going to allow it to melt all the cheese together. Do not stir right away. The reason for that is because you already know that the cheese isn't going to melt the moment you put it in there. Even though you already have, you know, a hot soup going, it's not going to melt immediately. So you want it to actually get to the place where it's about the same amount of temperature as your soup. So let it just kind of hang out for a few minutes before you start to stir and stir and stir. In the meantime, we're going to cover this up a little bit. We're not going to take this up to medium high. We're just going to go up to medium, which is 275, just so some real heat can get to it, but we don't want it to, you know, overly bubble up and kind of make a mess and maybe even burn. We don't want that. So while we're waiting on this to heat up, as you can see, we've already finished cooking off our onions, and I tell you, these are beautiful. This is exactly what you're looking for. You still see a little bit of the green in there, but the flavors of your sage and your rosemary and all your different types of onions being in this one little bowl, I could eat this by itself and be okay with it. This is like a full meal for me. I already have some pre-cut pumpernickel bread I got from the grocery store, and I don't know, I love pumpernickel bread. It just has such a warm, rustic flavor, and we're going to use this bread today with our cheeses, and we have some Gruyere cheese that we're going to put along with our caramelized onions. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer cheese on both sides, put the caramelized onions in the middle, and then we're going to get started on searing these off and grilling them together. Okay, everybody, so we are back. Our soup is just about ready. But right now, we're kind of concentrating on getting our grilled cheese done. We've already sliced up our Gruyere cheese, put slices on both sides, and put the caramelized onions right in the middle. I'm gonna place this right on the cutting board. Ah. When you go to plate this, you're gonna kind of cut it on a bias, and you put it with your soup. So now let's go back to, really quick while we're letting this rest, let's go back to our soup. It should be exactly the consistency you need it to be. You may have to add a little bit of salt and pepper just to taste. Don't go overboard with it, because then you'll just ruin the soup, and all of that hard work that you've put into making this wonderful soup is just going to go out the window. Okay, we are at the very end of this. We have we conquered, and now we are ready to plate this wonderful lunch meal. Our soup is ready. It tastes phenomenal. It's pretty. It's bright. And then we have this very rustic, very flavorful grilled cheese sandwich. And yes, it looks messy, and so what? Who cares? Once you start eating this, you're not even going to care about what it looks like. As much as we want to make it beautiful, you're just going to want to devour it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut our sandwich in half. Tell you something about this Cutco knife. It's just amazing. Look at that. Do you see that? Oh my God. It's so ready. I'm going to just place that right there. And then we're going to just ladle some soup right into this pretty glass right here. And you know, you can use a bowl if you like. I like presentation as well, so. Successfully finished our roasted red pepper soup with our Brie and Havarti cheese. We've also had our elevated grilled cheese sandwich that has caramelized onions and Gruyere cheese in the middle. So, I mean, at this point, yes, it's not, it's not our mamas and our grandmamas afternoon special, but we kind of elevated our tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwich to something just phenomenal. So thank you to my mother, and thank you to my grandmother for these wonderful recipes for us to start off with, so that we can actually get a little bit older and a little bit wiser and take a little bit more chances and do something just a little bit different. So from my kitchen to yours, we thank you so much for just coming and hanging out with us one more time. If you need to follow us, or you want to follow us, come on, Signatures by Angel Catering on Facebook, Signatures by Angel on Instagram, www.cheffangel.com. On Twitter, we are chef_angel. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave a message in the comments, anything that you need to know. If you want the recipe, you can go to any of those social media handles to find me, and I will definitely give you this recipe. Leave a message, leave anything that you need, that you want concerning this recipe. Definitely come on back, and we'll see you next week. You know that it's an every Tuesday thing. We're trying to make sure that you guys have the best of the best. So we're serving you food with passion, and we will see you later on. Have a good week.